friends, welcome to Awdhesh Academy. Friends, today we are going to learn about one of the greatest saint, philosopher, thinker and a spiritual person, Kabir Das. We all know about Kabir Das. We have learned about the dohas of Kabir Das since our childhood. And today we are going to learn more about Kabir Das and particularly about his ethical ideas and his spiritual ideas. So let us start with discussion of the life of Kabir Das. Now Kabir Das was a great saint and he was a chief exponent of the Bhakti movement in the medieval period. So he has directly asked the people to connect with God. Instead of praying God through the priest, following so many rituals, he suggested that we can directly connect with God with love. And that is precisely what was Bhakti movement. So he is considered to be one of the very important exponent of Bhakti movement. One of the very strange thing about Kabir Das was that he was a self-realized soul, even though he considered Ramananda as his teacher, but actually whatever knowledge he has acquired all from himself. And he spent much of his time in the company of Hindu saints and the Muslim Sufis, and thus he imbibed the best values of both the religions. So in one way, he tried to learn the best things about both the religions, Hinduism as well as in the Islam. And therefore his followers also included both Hindus and Muslims, and he gave his message by help of his dohas, which are still very, very popular in India, and we shall discuss some of these dohas in the quote section. Now let us understand the spiritual ideas of Kabir. According to Kabir, love is the most important medium to connect the people. All the bookish knowledge of the world are useless unless a person has love in his heart. He advised the people to give up hatred and love each other. We have learned this that Pothi Parpad Jag Mua, Pandit Bhaya na koe, Dhai Akhar Prem ka, Padhe jo Pandit hoye. So that is basically the message, that love is the most important medium to connect people. The scholarly knowledge is nothing as compared to love. He also believed that God is formless, pure and sacred, though he gave God different names like Ram, Rahim, Allah, Khuda or Sahib, but the name was not indicating to any particular God, but rather a God which is absolute. He believed that God is omnipresent and you don't have to go to a temple or mosque to find him. That means you can find God anywhere. You don't have to go to a specific place because God is present everywhere. He believed that God is one and he can't be realized by any type of ritual, but he can be realized only by love and devotion with purity of heart. According to Kabir, the place of teacher is very high in the society. He said that guru or teacher are most important position in the world, even higher than God, because only through a teacher does a man realize God. You must have heard about this doha, Guru Govind dono khade kaake lage paav, balihari Guru aapne jo Govind diyo bataye. The place of Guru is very important because only Guru tells how to realize God. And he considered all religions and all gods as one, only known by different names. So these are the spiritual ideas of Kabir, and he has made tremendous contribution in India. First of all, his greatest contribution is that he tried to create a harmony between Hinduism and Islam, which were at the loggerhead with each other in his time. They were fighting with each other, so he tried to create a harmony between them. He did not believe in idol worship and criticized the caste system in the Hindu societies. He appealed the Hindus to give up the rituals, sacrifices, idol worship and caste differences and openly denounced the concept of incarnation. So whatever were the popular beliefs in Hinduism, he said that we have to move away from that and we have to love God and we have to create goodness in ourselves. He also appealed to Muslims to give up their exclusiveness, their blind faith in one prophet, their performance of rites like pilgrimage to Makkah, their regulated prayers and mode of fasting, etc. So in a way we can see that he has criticized both Hinduism as well as Islam for the practices which in his opinion was not appropriate, And so he was very critical of that, and at the same time he tried to create a harmony, because unless we discard those differences, we cannot become one. Now let's learn some of the famous quotes of Kabir Das. कंकड़ पत्थर जोड़ के मस्जिद लई बनाए, ता चढ़ मुल्ला बाग दे का बहरा भया खुदाए. So we have seen that, in Muslims, it is quite common that, in masjid there is azan, and mullah speaks in a loud voice and sometimes with a loudspeaker. So what he says is that the God is not someone who is deaf. If you just speak from your heart, he will be able to listen. So all these things are not of any use. माटी कहे कुम्हार से, तू क्या रोंदे मोह, एक दिन ऐसा आएगा मैं रोंदूंगी तो. This particular doha explains as to the mortality of our life. It says that we are all mortal. One day we are going to die, and therefore we should remember that we cannot live here forever, and so we should do good things in our life as long as we are alive. दुर्बल को न सताइए जाकी मोटी हाय, बिना जीव के श्वास के लो भस्म हो जाए. This basically motivates us to help the poor people, help the weak people, rather than exploit the weak people. Because when the weak people condemn us, that can cause havoc to our life. Then चलती चाकी देख के दिया कबीरा रोए, दो पाटन के बीच में बाकी बचा न कोई. This is another beautiful quote by Kabir Das, and he says that the two chakis, that is between earth and the sky, nobody is able to maintain his integrity. The world is very cruel. So in this particular doha, he explains that the greatest challenge in our life is to maintain the integrity, honesty and faithfulness. Otherwise what happens that we get crushed. दुख में सुमिरन सब करे, सुख में करे न कोय, जो सुख में सुमिरन करे तो दुख काहे को होय. Now this is another beautiful doha by Kabir Das. He says that when we are in good condition, when we are happy, that is the time that we should remember God. That means that is the time that we should do good things in our life. Because when you are in trouble, then people go to God, then people try to do good things, and then it is too late. So when we are doing good, when we are in a good condition, that time we should not forget God, and we should keep doing the good things in our life. So friends, today we have learned about Kabir Das, one of the greatest saint, philosopher and Sufi poet, and learned some of his dohas. Many more dohas are available on websites also, you can learn about them. And I hope that with this we have a good knowledge about Kabir Das. Thank you very much. We are now learning about the thoughts of Indian philosophers, thinkers, saints, and today we are going to learn about the thoughts of very, very important spiritual personality of India, that is Sri Ramkrishna Paramhansa. Ramkrishna Paramhansa is widely known as the guru of Swami Vivekananda, and Swami Vivekananda has been quite famous, and he has made Hinduism and India famous all over the world because of his spiritual discourses and because of his scholarly knowledge over the subject. Nevertheless, he got those thoughts from his guru, who was Sri Ramkrishna Paramhansa. So let us now learn about Sri Ramkrishna Paramhansa. He was born in 1836. His parents were very poor, but they were very pious people. And he was not inclined to the formal education from the beginning. He was spiritually inclined, and he used to go on meditation for a very long time. And when he was 16, his brother took him to Kolkata to assist him in his priestly profession. He became the chief priest in the Kali temple at the Dakshineshwar, built by Rani Rasmati. He was married against his wishes to Sharda Devi when he was 23 years old, and later Sharda Devi became his disciple. That marriage was actually never consummated, and she became his disciple. He died in 1886 after suffering for a very long time from cancer. But before he died, Sri Ramkrishna Paramhansa asked his monastic disciple to look after Vivekananda as their leader, and he requested Vivekananda to look after the welfare of the disciple. So he has appointed Vivekananda as his successor before he died. Let us first understand why the title of Paramhans is attached to Sri Ramakrishna. Now, Paramhans is basically an honor which is given to a highest level of Hindu spiritual teachers. Now, we know that Hans is a bird in the mythologies which has a tremendous power of discrimination. If it is given water and milk put together, then it has the ability to drink only the milk and leave the water. So that way, when the truth and the falsehood are presented together, then a Paramhans, which basically means the supreme swan, he is able to drink only the truth, accept only the truth and discard the falsehood. So that is one meaning of supreme swan or Paramhans. The second thing is that swan is able to live on the water and also live on the soil. In the same way, a Paramhans is able to attach with the worldly life, he can interact with the world, as well as he can lead a spiritual life. So Paramhans means a person who is worldly as well as spiritual. So Ramkrishna Paramhansa has both these qualities. He was able to differentiate, discriminate between truth and falsehood, and his lectures or his thoughts and his preachings were very much worldly, and every common person can understand his preachings. What are his ideas? Sri Ramkrishna Paramhansa has studied under different gurus and he realized God through each of them. He was not a dogmatic person. He was not follower of any particular sect, scripture, religion, because he was not really learned man in the sense that he was practically an illiterate person, and he acquired all the knowledge through his experience, through learning different spiritual thoughts. He also acquired the thoughts of Islam and Christianity. He learned about them from the gurus. He considered Jesus and Buddha as the incarnation of God. He used to say that yato mat tatho path, which means as many faith, so many paths. That means all the faiths are different paths to reach to the same goal. So every faith may be teaching you something different, but ultimately the goal is to reach to God. And he saw God in every being, everyone, and therefore the path of realizing God start with path of realizing yourself. He has taught the harmony of all the religions. He did not give preference to one religion, and as we will see that he has captured the thoughts of all the religions. And that is why his disciple included people from all faiths and religion. He used to often explain the reasons for fighting among the people of different faiths by giving the example of an elephant and few blind men. This story is very famous and preached in different ways in different religions. So there was an elephant and few blind men were asked to identify what is this. So the elephants was touched by different people, and all the blind men who could not physically see elephant actually tried to understand elephant by whatever they touched. So somebody who touched the leg of the elephant thought that it is like a pillar. Somebody who touched the ear of the elephant thought that it is a fan. Somebody who touched the tail of the elephant thought that it is like a broom. Then one blind man touched the belly of the elephant and he thought it is a wall because it's such a huge, structure. Then somebody touched the trunk of the elephant and he thought that it is a thick snake. And therefore, all the blind people started disputing with each other that they are different. That means because they were not able to see the whole truth and they could only feel the part of the truth, and that is why there has been differences of opinion, and that is why there is a conflict. And that's what Sri Ramkrishna Paramhansa used to explain that it is because we don't know the whole truth. That is the reason that the different religions are telling you different things, because every religion is telling the same truth, but the perception or the method of expression may be different. He has a very different method of simplifying very, very complex religious scriptures. For example, in order to explain the essence of Gita, which is considered to be the most sacred book of Hinduism, he used to say, you just reverse Gita. Instead of Gita, you say Tagi, Tyagi. That means Tyag. So Gita means basically Tyag. That means you renounce all the desires, you renounce the desire of winning, victory, fruit, and that is the essence of Gita. So he summarized the Gita in a very beautiful manner. He says, renounce everything and seek God alone. That is the essence of Gita. But your renunciation should be internal and voluntary, and not something which is, external, and when you leave something, when you leave the worldly affair, then you are still thinking about it. See, one of the very important things you should understand, that renunciation has to come from within. That means if you understand from your life experiences, from your conviction, for example, that wealth does not give you happiness, or the power does not give you happiness, then you will have no problem in renouncing wealth or power. But as far as you believe that wealth is a source of happiness, power gives you importance and give you happiness, then if you renounce these things, it will have no meaning, because your mind will constantly on wealth and the wealthy people. So your renunciation will become natural once you understand that it is futile to run after wealth, because that's not going to give you anything. That is the meaning when he said that the renunciation must be internal and voluntary. He has given a very beautiful explanation for religion. He says, imagine that there is a lake, and this lake is having many ghats or banks. Now from one ghat, Hindus take water and call it Jal. From another ghat, Muslims take water and call it Pani. From a third ghat, Christians take water and they call it water. But in a sense, everybody is getting the same thing. So the words may be different, but the essence of religion is all same, and that is how he used to explain the religions to the common people, and try to reduce the conflict and try to create harmony among everybody. He has also explained that love which comes from our heart is actually a manifestation of God. So he believed that God is love. Whatever love we have in our heart is because of God. And so the best method to serve God, or to be faithful to God, to pray God, is to love each other. That in essence is also a preaching from Christianity, because that's what Jesus Christ also told, that love is the essence of God, and our greatest duty is to love each other, including our enemies. So he saw divine in everybody, because God lives in everybody, and once you appreciate that God lives in everybody, then you will get natural love for everybody, and you will not hate even your enemies. Sri Ramkrishna Paramhansa has made tremendous contribution to the spiritual tradition of India. He synthesized all the religions and created a religious harmony. He never wrote any book or delivered any public discourses. He spoke in the language of parables and metaphors from the daily life, so that everybody can understand it. His teachings are compiled in the form of a book, and its title is Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. He bridged the gap between the ancient religious practices with the modern secular concepts. And that's very, very important. Because if you see our old religion or any old religion, it actually talks about the sanctity of that particular religion alone and ignores the good things which are said in other religion. But Sri Ramkrishna Paramhansa synthesized all that, and to that extent, he created the true spirit of secularism as India practices. His teachings were later popularized by Swami Vivekananda to the world. He has a very unique method of explaining a concept of spirituality and God to the people. And one of the very famous story which he used to often say to explain the concept of God, that the God is in everybody was the parable of disciple and a mad elephant. It goes like that. There was a saint who used to teach his disciple that God lives in everybody. And one day what happened, that one of his disciples has gone to a jungle, a forest, where he saw an elephant coming toward him, and the muhut or the driver who was sitting on the elephant was shouting that get out of the way, because this elephant is mad, get out of the way. Now this disciple has faith in the teachings of Sri Ramkrishna Paramhansa. He thought that if God is there in me and God is there in the elephant, then this God of elephant cannot hurt me. So he did not leave the path. He was just standing there. As expected, soon the mad elephant came and actually thrown him out of the way. He got bruised, he got injured. Then he was brought to Sri Ramkrishna Paramhansa, and this man asked him why I was punished, because I only followed what you said. Then Sri Ramkrishna Paramhansa smiled and he said, I said God is in everybody. So God is there in Muhut also, the driver. So when the driver was telling you, leave the way, get out of the way, why you did not pay any attention to the God who was in Muhut? So that is how we explained that God gives you message through different people, and it is up to us to understand and appreciate the method and use them in the daily life. Mere theory is not going to lead to anywhere, and he has a very unique method of explaining this to common people. So friends, today we have learned about the spiritual thoughts of Sri Ramkrishna Paramhansa, and we have learned the role he has played in unifying all the religions and continuing the spiritual traditions of India, which actually seeks unity in diversity. Thank you very much for watching the video. Friends, today we are going to learn about Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda is one of the most popular leaders of our times. He was as much a spiritual leader as he was a worldly person. He has actually revolutionized the very concept of Hinduism and the very concept of the spirituality. So let us understand today about Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda was born in an affluent family in the year 1863, and he learned the Western philosophy and history at a very early age. He practiced meditation from the beginning since he was a child, and he is the most famous disciple of Ramkrishna Paramhansa. As we all know that he participated in the World's Parliament of Religion in Chicago in the year 1893, where he has given a very famous speech where he addressed the people as my American brothers and sisters. And he made India proud, and he made Hinduism very popular in the western part of the world after he has visited Chicago. He returned to India after spending around 3 years in America and Britain, where he spread the message of Vedanta as he was taught by his guru. He died in the year 1902 at the young age of only 39 years. Swami Vivekananda has identified the real problem of India, and he found that the real problem of India lies in the lack of confidence. India was under the foreign rule for several hundred years, and the Indian people, and particularly the Hindus, they lost the confidence on their own culture and tradition. He has brought forth the real teachings of Vedanta. He inspired the masses with the slogan, "Arise, awake and stop, not till the goal is reached." He taught them the principle of Atma and Paramatma, and he explained that we all have the Atma which is part of Paramatma, that is God. And therefore, we are all divine beings. The only thing is that we have to realize our divinity. And if we realize our divinity, then we can understand that we all have the potential to achieve the greatness in our life. He wanted the people to have the worldly knowledge as well as the spiritual knowledge, because the worldly knowledge is also very important for us. Without having the worldly knowledge like science, history, geography, and all those things, we cannot earn our living. So the worldly knowledge is important for us to actually make a living, to understand the physical world, but at the same time, the spiritual knowledge is also very important to understand our true self. Even if you have all the worldly knowledge of the world, still, if your spirit is not known, if you have not discovered your soul, there is no way you can remain happy in your life. And therefore, it is very important for us to attach with the world and also do not have too much of attachment with the world. One of the greatest contributions of Swami Vivekananda was that he perhaps first time synergized the religion with the service of the masses. He set up Ramkrishna Mission, whose purpose was not only to share the spiritual knowledge with the world, but also help the poor people to uplift themselves by giving them education. And if they are in trouble, for example, in the case of drought or in the case of floods, then the monks of Ramkrishna Mission also help them, to get rid of their problems. Let us now understand the spiritual thoughts of Swami Vivekananda. One of the greatest contributions of Swami Vivekananda was that he interpreted the ancient Indian scriptures of Vedas and Upanishad in the modern day language. He used the language of scientists to explain Upanishad, and that made him very, very popular, because he could communicate with the West and he can also communicate with the East. And therefore, his popularity was not only in India, but his popularity was all over the world. At the same time, he also adopted many principles of Western religions. For example, he did not believe that we should strive for individual salvation, but he believed that we should try to serve the society and serve the poor people, because it is said in Christianity, that serving the poor is like serving the God, and that is one of the concepts which Swami Vivekananda brought from West to East and preached to Indian people. He has a very strong belief on social service. He once said, "So long as the millions live in hunger and ignorance, I hold every man a traitor who, having been educated at their expense, pays not the least heed to them." Now, this is something very contrary to the typical Indian thoughts, where we believe that everybody has to suffer for his karma. And if somebody is suffering, it is because of his past karma, and therefore we should not intervene into his karma. He said, no, if other people are hungry, other people are ignorant, then it is the duty of the people who have wealth and the duty of the people who have knowledge to share their wealth and knowledge to make the life of their fellow citizens, fellow brothers and sisters as good as their own life is. He made a great contribution to India, and one of the greatest contribution he made was that he reminded India of the great heritage and restored their confidence, because we have lost that confidence after hundreds of years of foreign rule. Let us also remember that in his time, India was under British rule, and so everything which was Western was considered to be something which was good. He was able to pinpoint the negative side of the Western religion and also explained as to how Indian thoughts and Indian religions and Indian values can bridge that gap. He awakened the wealthy people and the educated people toward their responsibility for the middle class, for the lower class. He was perhaps the first spiritual leader who connected with the masses, who spoke for the masses, and he organized large-scale social welfare program for them. He united the different sects of Hinduism with the principle unity in diversity. In Hinduism itself, you can find there are tremendous variations. There are so many sects, and often these sects are fighting with each other for the superiority. He was able to bridge them. He was able to harmonize all the sects and make them as one. He successfully defended Indians from the false Christian missionary propaganda, who used to tell us that the Hindu religion is a degraded religion and one should become a Christian if he really wants salvation. So he has actually successfully defended and said that you can be a Hindu and you can still be a great religious and spiritual person. He has given the new thoughts to the old scriptures of Vedas and Upanishads. He also created a new form of monasticism by synergizing the principles of Western concepts of service of people and the Eastern concept of renunciation. So by combining the two, he was able to create this sect where people will renounce the world, but at the same time, they will serve the people for the betterment of the society. Swami Vivekananda has a very peculiar method of explaining very complex ideas. Let me give you a story how he explained the concept of idol worship in a language which can be understood by everybody. Once he was visited the state of Alwar, and the name of Maharaja was Mangal Singh. Now, Mangal Singh was quite a westernized person. He did not believe in idol worship, and he said, I find idol worship meaningless. So Vivekananda thought to teach him a lesson. So in the palace, there are many portraits of his ancestors. So he asked, who is this man? He said, he is my father, somebody is my grandfather. Then he asked one of the divans that take out one portrait. Then one portrait was taken out. Then he asked him, you spit over it. Now that person was totally shocked. He said, how can I do it? Then Vivekananda said, what is this? It is nothing but a canvas and a paint. It is not the Maharaja. What is the problem in spitting on this canvas and paint? Then he was not able to do it. The Divan said, no, I can't do it. Then Swami Vivekananda explained. He said, just because of the association of this particular portrait with your father, you start believing or you start thinking or you start remembering this portrait to be your father or like your father. In the same way, when somebody goes to the temple and prays before an idol, he is not praying to the statue of the stone. He is remembering God through that statue. So the statue or the idol is not God. He knows that it is not God. But that reminds him of the God, and that is what is most important. And this is how he was able to explain the concept of idol worship, which I think is one of the best methods to explain the idol worship. Swami Vivekananda was a very inspiring leader. He was a great orator. His speeches used to be loved by the people, particularly the youth. Many of his words are used even today as great quotes and inspire generations of people. For example, once he said, arise, awake, and stop not until goal is reached. Such a wonderful thought. Many times what happens that we start some work with a great enthusiasm, but we don't reach to the conclusion. And this problem is particularly prevalent in the young generation. They start great things, but when the problem comes, they run away from it. That's why he says, don't stop till the goal is achieved. He also once said, you cannot believe in God until you believe in yourself. So believing in yourself is very, very important because a God is within you. If you don't believe the God who is within you, how can you believe God who is outside? And therefore, it is very important for us to believe in God and believe in ourselves. He once said that the world is a great gymnasium where we come to make ourselves strong. The meaning of this is that when we are doing some good things for others, when we are on the right path, then we are not doing any favor to the world. The world will be as it is. But by doing the good things, we become good. Just like when you go to the gymnasium, you lift the weight, you do the exercises, nothing happens to the gym, nothing happens to the weights, but your body becomes stronger, you become fitter. In the same way, when we do good things in this world, we become better person and we become stronger and we become more spiritual. He also once said that anything that makes you weak physically, intellectually and spiritually, reject as a poison. It means that weakness is something which is to be avoided. We all must develop strength, because only when you have strength, you can achieve the goals of your life or you can help the society. So shun all form of weakness and become strong. He also once said that talk to yourself at least once in a day, otherwise you may miss a meeting with an excellent person in this world. There are basically two important messages from this quote. One is that we should spend some time with ourselves every day. We spend all the time with the world, but we hardly spend any time with ourselves. It is very important for us to know ourselves as a human being. Knowing thyself, knowing yourself is the greatest wisdom. Therefore, it's very important for us to spend some time with us and know ourselves. The second important message in this quote is that we all are good people. But unfortunately, we are always self-condemning ourselves and we are unable to see the good things. And therefore, if you believe that you are a good person, you will gradually become a good person. In the following words, he has given us the mantra of success. Take up one idea, make that one idea your life. Think of it, dream of it, live on that idea. Let the brain, muscles, nerves, every part of your body be full of that idea and just leave every other idea alone. That is the way of success. Such a wonderful thought. And it can really help us achieve the goals of our life. Many of us fail to achieve goals of our life because we have too many ideas. We have too many goals. Our mind is not focused on one thing. And when our mind is not focused on one thing, our energies are dissipated, our energies are distributed. And that is why he advised us that just take one idea, give your 100% to that idea, focus all your energy on that, and then you will achieve success in your life. Thank you very much for watching the video, and I am hopeful that you have understood the message of Swami Vivekananda and his great quotations. And he is one of the most important and inspiring leaders of the 20th century. And I'm sure that we can make our life better by following what he taught to us. Thank you very much for watching the video. Friends, today we are going to learn about the thoughts of Dayananda Saraswati, who is considered to be one of the greatest saints and the social reformer of India. So let us know more about him. He was a very great religious leader and a social reformer of India. He founded the Arya Samaj, which means Noble Society, as an Indian Hindu reform movement that promotes values and practices based on the beliefs and infallible authority of the Vedas. He also gave the slogan, "Go back to the Vedas." Now, what was the purpose of that? Friends, let's understand that as far as the Hindu religion is concerned, the most sacred scripture of Hindu religion are called the Vedas. Now, along with the Veda, we have Upanishads, we have Gita, we have also Puranas. Vedas are considered to be the original scriptures of Hinduism. They are also followed by Upanishads, who are in the form of dialogues between the gurus and the students. And basically, these are the philosophies which are part of Vedas. Then we have Gita, which summarizes the philosophy of Vedas and Upanishads. And then finally, we have Puranas, which are basically the stories which has been made so that the message of Vedas can be communicated to the common people. But unfortunately, the most common form of Hindu scripture, which is popular, or the most common form of Hindu worshipping, is because of the Puranas. These stories have been converted into idols and temples, and most of the Hindus follow that. As a result of that, what has happened, that there has been many malpractices which has come because of Puranas. And that is why Dayananda Saraswati says, let us go to the original scripture, which is the source of all the other philosophies of India and the Puranas, because there lies the purity, and that is the reason that he has given the slogan, go back to the Vedas. The prime object of our Samaj is to do good to the world, that is to promote physical, spiritual and social good of everyone. So this Arya Samaj was basically a practical movement which tried to reduce or eliminate the weaknesses of Hindu religion, which has come because of numerous mythologies and philosophies which has come later, which has got nothing to do with the Vedas. Now let us understand some of his ideas which makes Arya Samaj a very important movement for India. He was against idolatry, untouchability, casteism and ritualism. Now, as we know that these four things, idolatry, untouchability, casteism and ritualism, are very much integrated part of Hinduism, but they are not something which is provided in Vedas. These are by conventions, and that is why he was against that. He believed that God is formless, omniscient, just, merciful, eternal, omnipotent, omnipresent, immanent, holy and the creator of all. That means you can't make a statue of God. God does not stay in a particular place, and so we have to understand the God by our imagination. And he asked the people to accept truth and renounce untruth. And the truth is given in Vedas and not in the subsequent creations of Puranas. So he advised the people that people must perform all their actions in accordance with dharma and follow the righteous path. So instead of following the rituals, we should rather focus on doing the things in the right way, follow dharma, do good things, and that is the best way to live our life. Now let us know the contribution of Dayananda Saraswati. Dayananda Saraswati was not only a religious leader, he was also a social reformer. He was in favor of equal rights for women and he encouraged them to study the Vedas. This was something which was not considered to be right during his time, but he encouraged, and he wanted to give equal right to women. He also reformed the education system by introducing Anglo-Vedic schools to offer Indian students an updated curriculum teaching Vedas along with contemporary English. So he was of the view that we should teach the modern knowledge, English, science, maths to the students in addition to the Vedas. And that's why he started this Anglo-Vedic schools. He started the Suddhi movement to convert non-Hindus to Hinduism. This was one of his contribution, that the people who are forcefully converted into other religions, if they want to come back to Hinduism, he started the Suddhi movement. And due to his progressive views, he is considered to be one of the makers of modern India. So friends, this is the contribution of Dayananda Saraswati, and his contribution has enriched India and made it a more modern country. Now let's understand and learn some of his quotations. The first quotation is, beneficence remove evils, introduces the practice of virtue and adds to general welfare and civilization. What it means is that instead of having great theories, great philosophies, the most important thing is to do good to others. That is what is the meaning of beneficence. Because only when we do good things to others, do positive action, then only we can remove the problems of our society, we can practice virtue, and we can make our society better. What is crucial in dealing with loss is not to lose the lesson, that makes you a winner in the most profound sense. It means is that in every action, we may succeed or we may lose. Losing is very painful. But if we learn the lesson from our losses, that is what is of the highest value, because that will help us take the right decisions in future, and we will not be doing anything which may lead us to failure. People should never worship images. The spread of mental darkness is due to the prevalence of idolatry. This is another very beautiful quotation, and in this quotation, Swamiji very clearly says that we should not do any idolatry, idol worship, because that's something which actually leads us to wrong ways and forces us to do different type of rituals. So instead of knowing the truth, we move toward untruth, and that is the reason that he says that we should not worship idols. People should try to know God and imitate Him in their works. Repetition and ceremonies are of no use. What he says is that we should follow the God's action. That is most important. These rituals, these ceremonies are of no use. We should not waste our time on that. So God basically shows us the way what we should follow, and that is what his advice was. The man who resolved to stick to the truth at all cost steadily rises in virtues. When his virtues raise his reputation and prestige, he becomes all the more a devotee to truth. This devotion of truth becomes an unerring source of power and greatness. So what he says is that truth is the crux of all the virtues. If we decide that we will always speak truth and always follow the path of truth, in that situation we will develop other virtues very, very naturally. We will develop reputation and prestige, and once we develop reputation and prestige, then we will not like to break that, and then that will ensure that we follow the path of truth in future also. So friends, today we have learned about Swami Dayananda Saraswati, one of the greatest social reformer, thinker and saint of India, and I hope that you can write a great answers of the quotations which are there on the questions. You can practice Q session and then write your answers. Thank you very much. Friends, today we are going to learn about the ethical ideas of Dalai Lama. We all know about Dalai Lama. We also know some of his thoughts. Let's understand Dalai Lama and his thoughts in detail. So friends, let's first know about him. His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama, Tenzing Gyatso, is basically a Buddhist spiritual leader. And the Dalai Lama are believed to be the manifestation of the Bodhisattva of the compassion and the patron saint of Tibet. So the tradition of the Dalai Lama is there in Tibet, and there the Dalai Lamas are discovered by a process, and they are considered to be the manifestation of the Bodhisattva. And Bodhisattvas are basically the people who are realized human beings, inspired by a wish to attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings who have both to be reborn in the world to help humanity. So Bodhisattvas are the realized human being, and they basically want to help the world, create a better world, and that is how they would attain Buddhahood as Gautam Buddha has attained. We know that Dalai Lama is residing in India for more than 50 years. He has migrated from Tibet because of the Chinese aggression, and he has been awarded Nobel Prize also in 1989 for his non-violent struggle for the liberation of Tibet. Another very important thing about Dalai Lama is that he has become the first Nobel laureate to be recognized for his concern for global environmental problem. So he is also very open about the environmental issues and for the protection of environment around the world. Now let's understand the ethical ideas of Dalai Lama. Dalai Lama asks all of us to be happy. Happiness is the main goal according to Dalai Lama. He says if people's mind are upset, mere physical comfort will not bring them peace. And if their minds are at peace, even physical pain will not disturb their calm. The meaning is that happiness is a state of mind, and we must strive to be happy. Instead of trying to be rich, trying to be powerful, our goal should be to ensure a mind or a state of mind where we can achieve happiness. And that is the reason that Dalai Lama encouraged the people to be happy. He advocates the cultivation of warm-heartedness and human values such as compassion, forgiveness, tolerance, contentment, and self-discipline. According to Dalai Lama, all human beings are equal and they all want happiness and not suffering. His concept of human values are secular and universal. So friends, Dalai Lama, even though he represents the Buddhist tradition and follow the Buddhism, still he is basically very secular in nature, and he always think about the whole humanity, all religions, and he wants the happiness of all human beings. Now the Dalai Lama believed that the rich ancient Indian understanding of the working of the mind and emotions, as well as the techniques of mental trainings such as meditation developed by Indian traditions, are of great relevance today. As we all know that Buddha was born in India and Buddhism started from India and spread all over the world. And the main techniques of Buddha are quite similar to what we follow in our life. For example, the techniques of mental trainings and also the techniques of meditation by which we control our minds and emotion. And so Dalai Lama believed that these understanding of the Indian minds or Indian rishis or munis can really bring a great change in the world today. Now let's understand the contribution of Dalai Lama. Dalai Lama is committed to the harmony among all the world's traditions and religion. And he is one of the person who is accepted by the people of all religions across the world. Dalai Lama believes that despite philosophical differences between them, all major world religions have the same potential to create good human beings. So if we follow our religion and particularly the humanistic aspect of our religions, then we all can become good human beings. He also says that all religious traditions to respect one another and recognize the values of their respective tradition. So here we advises that we should follow our traditions, but at the same time we should also respect the traditions of the different religions because they are also valid in their own way. And thus he has shown the commitment for reviving the awareness of values of ancient Indian knowledge among young Indians today. And he has spread the message of peace, love, compassion to all the people around the world and particularly in India where he is highly respected. Now let's talk about some of his quotes. Happiness is not something ready-made. It comes from your own action. That means we can't imagine that we will get happy because we'll get something. Only when we will do the right action, then only we will be able to create happiness. Happiness will not come from money, power, fame or anything. It will come only when we will do the right action. My religion is very simple. My religion is kindness. So this particular quote says that kindness is the greatest religion. As long as you are kind, you are religious. So we should always be kind. If you think you are too small to make a difference, try sleeping with a mosquito. And this is a very interesting and a humorous quote of Dalai Lama, where he says that if we are thinking that we cannot make a difference, think that a mosquito can even make a difference, and even a powerful person cannot sleep if there is a mosquito. So we all have the power to transform the world and make a difference in the society. Give the ones you love wings to fly, roots to come back, and reasons to stay. This particular quotation tells us that we should not be very possessive to the people whom we love. We should rather empower them so that they can fly, they can stand on their own feet, they can explore the world and create such an environment that they come back with you and stay with you. You can never obtain peace in the outer world until we make peace with ourselves. That means unless we are having peace within ourselves, we will not be able to achieve peace outside. The outside will continue to be a disturbed place. It was always like that. It will continue to be like that. The peace has to be discovered from within. So instead of thinking that we will get peace outside world, try to have peace inside. And that is very much possible. Share your knowledge. It is a way to achieve immortality. That means when we share our knowledge with other people, then the knowledge goes to another person and that person will share it to another person, and that is how whatever thoughts we have, that thoughts will always remain in the world, and that is how we can achieve immortality. Compassion is not religious business, it is human business. It is not luxury. It is essential for our own peace and mental stability. It is essential for human survival. And in this quote, Dalai Lama teaches us the importance of compassion. It is not related only to the religion, but it is a need of human beings. We want compassion from others, and we should be compassionate for others. We can live without religion and meditation, but we cannot survive without human affection. So this shows that human affection is the most important thing. Religion and meditations are important, but most important is the human affection. So if your religion teaches you to discard human affection, or it teaches you to fight other people, we should ignore that, because nothing is more important than human affection. So friends, today we learned about Dalai Lama, we learned about his thoughts, his life, and also his quotes. You can practice some of the questions on this particular topic. Thank you very much.